Alright, welcome back, and the game is officially 5 years old now, although in my case I would actually say that the game is maybe 6 years old because I've been playing since the alpha days, but we all in most cases do count the game age from the official release date, which was I think in 2019, 13th of August in 2019. When I think about it, that was a long time ago now. But in any case, the anniversary update should happen sometime next week, I think. But I would say the main thing already arrived, the young ships. So next week I think there's going to be something else besides that. It's going to be hopefully interesting. And I will definitely check it out. But for today, as usual, we will be going out and we will be blowing up some ships. It is my favorite activity. It was my favorite activity in the game since the early days, back in alpha when the game was a lot different from what we have now. But I'll be flying the usual ships, Enforcer, I think Stratius, and I will have a new ship, the Blackbird 3, which I would actually say it's very interesting because I've had I have a Evo role nowadays that I assigned to myself, which I do enjoy. So I did fly the Blackbird a little bit. Hopefully I will have some of the Blackbird's encounters in the video today here. But for the first target now, we have received intel, and I've seen a ping on Discord that we have caught a very tanky Raven Navy. Now the Raven Navy is sleepy. Basically the Raven did log out in space with modules active, and when you do that you do retain the tank, and when you force log out in space, and if you have timer and if you have the modules active, the ship will not disappear and you can be scanned very easily. So that's the first Raven Navy for today, and as we can all see so far, we are doing very little damage to it, if any damage to it. The Raven Navy can have a very good passive tank and a very good active tank as well. It's a ship that I haven't been using much over here because I've had the Tempest Navy and I've also had the Megathron Navy back a couple months ago to a year ago, and they did offer some very good tank, especially on the Tempest Navy. If you go back and check those videos out, that thing was stupidly tanky. Oh, very high shield resistance. Was built to be more of a passive tank with a shield booster that kind of wasn't really meant to be used as a shield booster, but was kind of meant to help the passive recharge a little bit, and it worked surprisingly. Now, what kind of build we have on this Raven, I have no clue, but based on the resistance and based on how much damage we're doing so far, I would guess that this Raven is most likely integrated for tank, and most likely also has a bunch of adaptives, maybe even a damage control, or maybe even some reactives. We will find out hopefully in the next couple of minutes. But we have a bomber and we have an enforcer. Two of our ships, as we can all see, aren't doing well, and there is a succubus joining in, so there is going to be 3 ships firing at the Raven Navy, and as we are seeing so far, very little damage has been done on the shield so far. I mean, I'm doing like 776 damage with my 6 missiles, and to be honest, and to be real, I don't really have a lot of DPS on this ship. I primarily fly the Enforcer for the fact that it has a scanner, it has range, it's cloaky, and I just enjoy using it as a support Evor ship. And for that purpose, it actually does really well. I have no complaints on the DPS on the ship, because if I want to, I could just enhance it even more. I can definitely enhance it even more if I want to. I can use turrets, cannons, artillery cannons, which I might actually do. I might swap missiles for cannons. I don't know why I went with missiles on this ship. I can use any weapon system on this ship. I kind of wish that the Enforcer had drones, but if it had drones, that would be pretty broken. If it had drones, I would definitely use the Enforcer as a drone boat because of Bombard. It would definitely be a good option, the best option in my case here, because I have quite literally the best skills for drones out of all weapon systems and out of all skills. Drones are basically what I have literally on level 5. On every skill for drones is on level 5. And then I think cannons also have most on level 5. And then I think everything else comes. Missiles are third, I believe, because I used to use missiles because of the orders, and I think I've kept the skills. In any case, the Raven is getting in low shield there. It's still pretty funny though to see how much this Raven can actually tank while being completely AFK, or should I say completely asleep. And we did catch a Marshal a while ago on the same way. The only difference is the Marshal didn't really have any adaptives active. They basically just logged out upon arriving at the location, which I don't really think that the same thing happened to this Raven, because they had modules active. But I'm wondering if that Marshal had adaptives activated, how long would it take to destroy that ship? I mean, this is taking a while already, and we are still in the shield, by the way. Still trying to go through the shield. 3 of our ships. I mean, again, to be honest, we don't have a battleship. We don't have a battleship with us. We are basically flying smaller ships. And I would say smaller ships in a fleet definitely feel a lot more fun than just yeeting a battleship at everything that flies. I actually thought to take the Dominant Navy and to fly it in the same way, but I wouldn't really enjoy it the same way I would enjoy with the cruiser or something smaller than that. I feel like cruisers are still the most ideal ship that you can just fly around pretty much anywhere, and a ship that in a small group can take on even larger ships with ease. Battleships feel a little bit boring, and just click one button and implant, and that's about it. With smaller ships you actually have to put some effort into getting the target to be blown up. And the second the shield fell down, that's when we started to actually do some good damage on the Raven. As we all know, Ravens, as well as other cavalry ships, once they lose the shield, the armor and hull usually just crumbles very quickly, because the cavalry ships generally are shield tanks and they have very powerful shields, but the second the shield fails, the ship just explodes, and that's pretty much what happened with this Raven. Well, that was a long first target, 9.8 billion. 3 adapters, a damage control, and a large generator. And that was a PvP build with scramblers and a chonky passive tank build. That wasn't a generator, it was an extender, okay. So that was fairly tanky. decent. That's a decent build actually on that Raven. Very decent build on the Raven. And next, speaking of Ravens, we have a second Raven on the menu today. This time we have a bunch of cruisers and a bunch of frigates. Okay, fair enough, I guess. Going to maintain a 42-kilometer orbit around the Raven. Now this Raven seems to be going down a little bit faster than the previous one. I will maintain this orbit. I'm still thinking, I've been thinking for this for months now, I know, if I should just go full tank A Enforcer. Their problem is ESC. I don't have enough ESC to buy a second one, and I don't really feel like I want to completely change the build of this one, because so far it's been working really well. But that can always change. I feel like this ship lacks speed. I don't know, I mean, if I want, and if I go put tank, then I lose DPS, and if I go DPS then I lose tank, and you can't really have everything. You can really have one build to counter everything, which is fine, I guess. You can't really be prepared for everything, but it's just something that's been on my mind. Okay, let me see, 56 kilometer range. I'll just increase the range and I'll just orbit 57 kilometers. The Raven is now into armor. Now this is the moment when something very funny happens. I thought that the Raven did call for backup, and obviously I'm maintaining range, or I'm a long range, medium range ship in this case. And you have new ships appearing local. Now I'm looking towards the sun and towards some of the other objects, just in case something other pops up. And there's something that pop up, a Tempest. And this is where I thought, okay, maybe it's time to just leave. Seems that Tempest came to help. But the second I started to warp, I noticed something, that the Tempest also warped. So the Tempest did not come for the Raven support. They were just passing by, so this was just bad luck and bad timing. Obviously, I'll just come back. I'll just return to the gate. I actually thought that we were being jumped, and I expected a super capital to pop up, because you know, you drop super capitals on 3 frigates and 2 cruisers nowadays in this game. But turns out that was false alarm, and there is the Raven still there. But yeah, the Raven exploded. So we caught the Raven. However, we were attempting to catch the Tempest. Unfortunately, the Tempest did escape. We weren't able to catch up with it. And it was a good catch though. 11.6 billion ISK Raven Navy, not bad. But in this case, right now we attempt to go and see if we can catch the Tempest. Would be nice if we managed to catch Tempest, but unfortunately that's not going to work the way we imagined in this case. I think we took the... I think we did mess up the gate initially, just a tiny little bit. Nothing too bad, you know, it just happens sometimes that we will mess up the... Okay, sorry for the weird cut. As usual, I have a bad habit of somehow plugging out my microphone while recording, and I just can't explain how that happens. In any case, let's see Where were we?
Warp
Oh
drive
yeah,
active.
we were attempting to catch to catch the Tempest, although unfortunately that's not going to happen that easily, which is fine, I guess. Nothing too serious. It just can be a little bit annoying when you miss a ship like that, especially when it was already bubbled. But you know, it happens. Just terrible timing. It's just terrible timing, really. So, how do I like this particular Enforcer so far? I would say it's a decent ship. I enjoy flying it. I enjoy flying it. It's just that I feel like you know, if I don't fly a tank ship, I feel like I'm naked. You know, that's the thing. But I'll get used to it. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. The thing that I want to focus on right now when it comes to these ships is I want to attempt to have a PvE cruiser, I want a PvP cruiser, and I want something that can do both. Now, I'm kind of limited, and this is one of the reasons why I dislike implants, because I am kind of limited to mostly drones now, because after all, drones are my my best weapon in skill and best weapon because of the implant. So I'm kind of bound to drones whether I like it or not. I'm not complaining about that. It is just annoying when you want to fly something different, but if you do fly something different, then its performance isn't going to be what it could be with something else. For example, with drone modes or Stratus in my particular case, or a prophecy to command. I could fly a prophecy to command anywhere, but I just don't feel like...
Warp drive active.
I just don't know. I mean, it doesn't have a cloak, it's not as fast as a cruiser, although it's fairly fast for a battlecruiser. It is a very odd, and it's a very odd situation in my case. And we are still chasing the Tempest. We're basically flying through a different, through also all sorts of different gates, trying to see where the Tempest is, but unfortunately I think we lost it, and as I already mentioned before, yeah, we definitely did lose the Tempest. They definitely came in the right moment to escape, or should I say, in our case, in the bad moment, because we couldn't catch the Tempest. Maybe if we had like maybe one more ship, a battleship for example, a Dominavy with DPS, or something similar, the Raven would have been destroyed and we would probably be able to catch the Tempest. But you know, sometimes you catch them, sometimes you don't, and that's perfectly fine for me, because after all, you know, you win some, you lose some in this game, and that's fine. We don't have to catch every single ship flying, you know. That's not something that we are not greedy. At least we are trying not to be greedy. I've learned from my experience, being greedy never really ended well in this game. If I was greedy in the past, I usually pay the price for it in one way or the other. That's pretty funny to think about. But that's fine. Well, I guess we will go back to our previous position or location, because the Tempest is nowhere to be found. So I just would assume that they went to LowSec somewhere, or just all logged out in space. In any case, there was a Praxis 2 that I was chasing around, and they were in an anomaly. In an anomaly, but it seems like the Praxis did jump through the gate. I'm not really sure if they saw me or they looked at local, but Praxis should be bubbled now at the other side in the other system. I really want this ship to be faster. This is why I actually would probably go back to the Celos at one point, because of speed. The Celos is fairly fast. I'm actually thinking about slapping some tier 4 rigs on that thing to make it even faster. Well, the Enforcer is not slow, but it's not fast. It's the second slowest ship actually that I would say exists in the game. And the Praxis has been destroyed. At least I came right on time to watch the ship explode. Isn't that just lovely? I remember when the Celos used to have the battle mode. That thing was insane back then. My Celos has lost around, I think it lost about 2,000 or 3,000 DPS over the course of a couple months with all sorts of nerfs, barrage implant nerfs. Then besides barrage implant, the ship itself lost the battle mode, which I'm fine with that for the most part. But honestly, I enjoyed the battle mode on that thing. It was just absolutely insane. That thing was very wild. Was fun while it lasted. Now you
Warp
need to
drive
have
active.
that special module installed, or you can use that other slot for something else that you want. But I like to use the rapid firing module on the cells. Works really well. Next we have a Rattlesnake that got caught logging out in space. You can make this up though. It's funny how many ships log out in space. I don't understand why. It's a mystery to me. We have been hunting and playing for 5 years, and you will see 5-year-old accounts making the same mistake that they've been making back in 2020, 2019. So I gotta say, that's pretty funny to see how some of the mistakes in the game, some of the very obvious mistakes that should have been learned early on are still being made. But you know, I'm not complaining. We get to blow up some big boats, so I'm not complaining, obviously. And this is the moment where I was flying the Blackbird. Actually, good choice to use the Blackbird against Rattlesnake, because drones aren't really a big threat to small ships. Drones aren't a big threat to small ships, but missiles are. From our experience, most of the bomber losses or small ship losses are coming from drones. Not drones, are coming from missiles. From Rattlesnake missiles, from Raven missiles and stuff like that. So I figured out, okay, if that's the case, if we're flying enough it, you know, I might build a ship that can be a good Eivor support, that can help the smaller ships in avoiding taking damage. And in this case, I figured out, you know what, the Blackbird is going to be a perfect solution to that, because this thing can absolutely cripple someone's missile performance, and I have a general unit that helps with that. I have a general unit for both the guidance disruptors and the tracking disruptors, so both weapon types are basically going to be completely useless against our ships, which was my goal, honestly. Since I don't really fly DPS oriented ships in our fleet roams, I usually fly a ship that can scan, a ship that can do support, and that's about it. I usually stick to these roles. Why is that the case? Well, it's just what I personally enjoy the most, to be honest. It's what I personally enjoy the most. I don't have to be top DPS every single time. I enjoy the support role. So far that's been working really well. Okay, now let's go and let's see what we have. Oh, we have...
Warp drive active.
We have a Gnosis. You know, the Gnosis became a very popular ship actually. I think it's the new Gnosis that's pretty much meant for the for players who have returned to the game. And I have noticed a lot of players
Warp
have
drive
returned
active.
to the game. A lot of new players as well, so that's a good thing. It's nice to see returning players and new players come back to the game. Okay, now let me see
Warp drive active.
what the Gnosis is doing. Is this an Inquisitor anomaly? It does look like an Inquisitor anomaly. Okay, there's the Gnosis. Let's go after it. Let's go after it if possible.
We're under attack.
Yeah, I'm actually doing a mistake here. I'm using a scrambler and a web close range with long range missiles. Yeah, don't do that. But it's not going to be much of a problem against a Gnosis, which wasn't a serious target really. But potentially it can be a problem against some of the more serious ships where you need to actually take into account distance and range. Especially with a build like the build I'm rolling with right now. It worked in this case, so not a big deal against the less serious targets. I should have taken my own Gnosis, but I didn't want them to finish the Inquisitor, and they did finish, so I didn't have time to change ships. They would leave the system if I took longer. They would definitely leave the system, and yeah, that's not the build that I would use. Although I've been thinking to do something funny and to fit a cursed ship and just throw that into PvP. And knowing me, I would probably get ships blown up that way as well. But yeah, it's something I've been thinking about doing. Okay, let's go and see what the next target is. I picked the Stratius, which means that we have a battlecruiser, I believe. Could be interesting if it's another Gnosis. The Gnosis does like me for some reason. The last like 4 or 5 battlecruisers that I've destroyed were Gnosis type battlecruisers. Why? I don't know. It's like back in the day when every single ship I found was a prophecy. Now it's a Gnosis. Pretty funny. I do miss the old days and the prophecies being everywhere. I feel like I had a lot more fun back then with a Cinnaball just yeeting. I was a completely different time. Yep, it is a Gnosis again. Alrighty then. Well, let's go after Gnosis, I guess. Let's go after the Gnosis. Although I shouldn't have loaded in Bombard. I feel like Bombard is overkill, but you know, just in case. Although I don't think the Gnosis can actually be a serious ship. Or maybe it can, I don't know. All I know is that I was able to do some serious damage with the Gnosis, so I'm definitely not underestimating any ship nowadays anymore. Because even the Gnosis can be interesting and dangerous in the right hands. And actually it's a good thing I took the Stratius. There wasn't any good warping. We will be slowly approaching the Gnosis. As I like to say, creeping closer to the Gnosis. And once within range, I will just yeet the drones and yeet the ship at the Gnosis. I have large missiles. Now why do I have large missiles and this current build, it actually fits, it actually works, which is pretty funny. This is the Stratios with large rapid missiles. They do some good damage, and I just enjoy using them. Works really well for pretty much any ship size that the Stratios can be used against. And the Stratios is still my go-to ship for blowing up frigates and smaller ships, like the stars and stuff like that. Bombard on this thing is pure evil to this day. I feel like the Stratios is probably the sneakiest and the nastiest sneaky cruiser in the game. Well, that was fast, as expected. I mean, it's like Gnosis only, so expect it to be blown up very quickly. But the loot wasn't that bad. I mean, I could definitely use those scrubbers and that rifle railgun there. I am not going to complain about loot anymore, as I mentioned in the past.
Warp drive
I'm here
active.
to have some fun. Although honestly, I could use some good loot. I could definitely use some good loot. I need East to get some new ships and new stuff. I still want to fly the new young ships. I feel like they can be quite interesting. Let's take a look at the value of that Gnosis. For some reason I forgot where it's located at. Well, not bad. I mean, it's still a decent value. Even though this is a training ship, Gnosis training ship, the value is still there. It's not bad. Not a bad value at all in ISK. And the build though, and yeah, we don't talk about the build that much. Alright, and that's it for today. That was a nice short little run. Obviously there will be a lot more. I do plan to buy some new ships and fly some new ships. I mentioned the Blackbird. Besides the Blackbird, I definitely want to fly some other new ships, but more on that in a different video. But with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and as always, I'll see you next time.